This is the Authentic Dating series brought to you by Ahmad and David,
where we explore what it takes to have a dating life you're excited about.
Hey guys, I'm David.
I'm Ahmad.
And this is the Authentic Dating series. So today we've got a really special guest, an old friend of ours, an old colleague of ours who we've had many a good night and good day time out with. Russ, coming over from Australia.
What's happening? Hello, how you going? How you going?
How you going?
How you going? It's so Aussie, look at that.
How you going?
We're not going anywhere, we're sitting here.
How are you doing?
How do you do?
So Russ, what have you been up to these days?
Mate, so I can't even remember the last time I kind of caught up with you properly. It's been a few years. Moved out to Australia 10 years ago. Been out there, still playing in the dating space. And just loving life over there. The beaches, the weather. And it's kind of nice. It's also really nice to be back in London for a London summer. So I'm just home to see family. What have you guys been up to?
But Russ isn't telling you something. Russ is not telling you that. He runs the Social Collective.
The Social Collective, yeah.
Which is also doing something called Date Differently, which
Yeah.
is really fucking awesome. You can talk about that?
Yeah, of course. So, Wait, I was just being humble, guys. Come on.
Yeah. I just noticed how white his trainers are, man. Are they brand new?
They are brand new.
Oh. Fucking hell.
Figure this cheaper in London.
Sparkly.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. It's just,
So Date Differently, yeah. So I run a company called the Social Collective in Australia, and it was a company that was born out of frustration around the lack of communication that we have in the world and our ability to talk to people and connect with people and start conversations. And over the last 2 or 3 years, and given my background in the dating space, which is sort of how we connected, it's evolved into dating advice. And somewhere along the line, we developed a framework, if you will, called Date Differently. And Date Differently is a different way of looking at dating today. The way, because dating has changed.
Yeah.
It's moved on so much. And our framework kind of brings it all back to communication and communication skills. So how do you think, meet, engage, and attract differently? And and we've and not recently we launched our own podcast, and we're sort of getting our feet under the ground. It's new and it's fun, and
What's it called?
It's actually just called Date Differently.
Amazing.
It's and I think the thing I haven't really mentioned is that our entire market are women. So we're talking about dating from the perspective, or from a man's perspective, from my perspective, to an audience or a market of women that are interested in dating today.
Yeah.
So getting that guy's perspective and getting that different way of dating, because the world's just changed, man. And it's fun, and we're doing a lot of good things at the moment. And one of the big things we've been talking about is this whole idea of learning to take control of your dating life.
Yeah.
And not kind of relying on the apps, and not kind of relying on the old school mentalities.
And being responsible.
And exactly right. And being responsible, and maybe sort of bringing it back to that bigger picture. Why the fuck are you dating?
Yeah.
Why are you out there doing it? You're doing it for the sake of doing it. Are you doing it because you're single? Are you doing it because everyone else is doing it?
You're doing it because you're bored.
You're doing it if you're bored. And that's a really good one. And I think it doesn't matter if it's men or it's women. I don't think a lot of people know why they're dating.
Yeah. They're just doing it because they want to fill some time, or it's a thing they think they should be doing, right? There's that pressure to always be dating, because if you're the single, then you shouldn't be single. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? It's just like, as we grow up, we see other people doing stuff, and it's just like, okay, they're in a relationship. I should also be in a relationship. Oh, they're single. Maybe I should break up.
Yeah. But it's so interesting you say that, the whole idea of, I'm watching other people doing it. Yeah. Like a large part of, I guess, the people that follow us, a large part of Australia that are listening to my podcast or talking to us as business, they're women that are sort of in that sort of 28 to 30, 35 range. They've kind of been in relationships. They've been with a guy for a few years and they've come out of it. And the dating landscape has changed. And the way we meet people have changed. And it's overwhelming and it's kind of freaky. And it's like, holy shit, am I just meeting guys that want to get laid? Or am I meeting guys that actually want to date me? And then you've got all the dating apps, Tinder, Bumble, Happen. It becomes overwhelming. So a massive part of my market are just like, how the fuck do I date? It's a scary place for them to be, but it's interesting because I'm getting to see the female side of dating as a whole.
What's really interesting for me actually is like, I really, I was in a relationship up until like two and a half years ago. And then when I came back from my travels and I was back in London, the dating landscape had changed. Before, there was no apps,
Yeah.
right? There was Plenty of Fish as an online application, but no
yeah.
one was really using it. So it was all bars, clubs, streets, whatever. And I came out of a relationship and come back to London, and everything's on apps, and everyone wants to be on apps, right? And I kind of just decided that, I'm not going to do that.
So you're not on the apps.
I'm not on the apps.
So what is are you dating? Are you
Yeah.
single?
I'm single.
Yeah.
I'm completely single now. I was saying
completely
single. I'm not half single. I'm
Now
not quarter
and
single.
forever will be.
Yeah, and I found
Free.
well, I ran around naked.
That's how you date differently, ladies and gentlemen.
You'll find David in the fields.
Lavender fields on my
Lolloping around.
lavender fields on my preference. No, I'm just finding that through I go to a lot of talks and workshops about things I'm interested in, and I'm meeting women just naturally through those avenues. And also there's a bit of, maybe we'll call it recycling. A lot of women I used to date years ago are just, hey, how are you? I see you've come back from your travels, or hey, we haven't spoken for a while. Let's get a drink. And you're like, oh yeah, cool. Hey, let's do that. And that kind of was also another source of meeting women.
I don't think the brand recycling is good for that one. Maybe upcycling.
Repeat business.
Yeah.
Recycle dating.
So we're going to get to the meat of the episode. Or we're going to talk about my dating life.
I thought your dating was the meat of the episode, mate.
Yeah. David's not getting second dates.
I'm struggling at
That's
it.
why he's single.
Second dates, I love it. Is that a big thing here? Do you find that a lot of the guys that listen to you struggle with second dates?
I think it is related to the apps, and it is. I feel there's a strong emphasis related to the apps and how people interact. And I've had a similar thing myself when I was when I came out of my last relationship, and just the whole vibe of the apps and how things are and whatnot. But yeah, it's you're meeting people, and then even if you feel you've got a good connection. I've had some old clients who've been talking to me about this, and they're just yeah, I'm going on these dates, and even they're making out with girls. They're but then she doesn't get back to me, and then they're oh, she's being flaky.
Really?
They're not being real because they give me one impression, and then they're not following up. And
See, that's so interesting for me, because sitting on the other side of the coin and working with a big population of women, I hear the same thing. I hear girls that are kind of going on dates and they go, Russ, so we'll sit down, we'll talk about it. We're like, Russ, I met this guy, we connected on Tinder, we connected on Happen or Bumble, we went on our first date. I was like, yeah, tell me more. And was it good? And she'd be like, it was incredible. We had fun, we engaged, we talked, we had a cheeky little kiss at the end of it. It was a heap of fun. I was like, yeah, it went well. And then 3 days later, I'm like, how's it going? And she's like, yeah, nah. Didn't hear from him.
Wow.
Flaked out. And then the interesting thing for me, and I wonder if you find the same thing on your side, talking to guys, is that it starts to get introspective. And a lot of the girls start to, after a while, they start to go, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
What did I do wrong? Why am I not converting into a second or third or fourth date?
Yeah.
And, on our podcast last week, we did an episode called 50 First Dates.
Yeah.
And it's kind of you're doing that over and over again. You're dating the same guy over and over again with a different name.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
You keep seeing John.
seeing John.
or
John 2.0.
No, you keep meeting Casper. Casper, the unfriendly ghost.
But it's an epidemic.
Yeah.
And so you're finding the same thing. So it's interesting to hear that.
Yeah. So it's guys, you talk to them and you're like, hey, how's your date go? And they're like, yeah, I think it went pretty well. And then a few days later, they're like, oh, yeah, I got a text message from her and she doesn't see it going anywhere. She didn't see there was a spark and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, cool.
She doesn't see that there's a spark.
Yeah. So
that's a classic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a really classic
There's no
line,
chemistry.
Right? No chemistry, right?
I think you're really nice, but we didn't.
Yeah, there wasn't something there for me.
See, I hear the same thing.
Yeah.
I met him and he was nice, but... Oh, no, sorry. So that's an interesting part as well. There's two parts of this. There's the girls that go on the dates with guys and they go, there was no spark, there was no chemistry, he was nice enough, but he's not what I'm looking for. And then there's the other side that we were just talking about, the girls that kind of had the best time, had the most spark, they created chemistry beyond belief, and then get nothing, get ghosted, hear nothing. And it's so confusing. It's these two sides of the spectrum, and we're all sitting on the same fucking spectrum.
Yes.
And that, it just blows me away, man.
I would say, as first-hand experience, I've been dating in the last couple of years. I've had a few times where I've gone on dates and they've been nice. And I can tell that the girls had a really great time. And we've had a good time, right? It's been fun. We've laughed, we've joked, we've had a few drinks. And then I leave and I'm like, nah. I'm just like, I'm like, it was nice. It was nice.
Not even, thanks, but no thanks. Just, done. Out.
And I'm like, it was nice. But actually, what I really feel is like, that was a nice night. But you're not the sort of person I'm really looking to spend a long amount of time with. Like, and maybe that's my kind of take, is like what I'm looking for is quite particular in terms of, a woman's spiritual journey and what she's into and like where she's at with life in terms of like her level of consciousness and awareness, right? I'm picking up on all those things. So I can have a good time with you, but I know that we could have a good time for the next 10 weeks, but actually I'd never fall in love with you.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
But that's interesting, because you said two things that I want to ask you about. Right? The first bit is like, she's not the kind of woman that I want to spend a long time with, as opposed to she's not the kind of woman I want to marry and I want to be the rest of my life with and I want to fall in love with.
Yeah.
So do you find that there's a part of you where you're kind of like, I'm not ready to commit yet. I'm not ready to go down that road. And like, because I get that side from the girls that I talk to. They're kind of like, and there's a big epidemic around meeting guys and it going really well. And some girls are getting second and third dates and fourth dates, but he doesn't want to commit.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want that bigger picture, or he doesn't know he doesn't want that bigger picture, or he hasn't got all his ducks in line yet.
Yeah.
And I'm very much that guy when I first started this. Like my wife, when I first met my wife, I didn't want commitment. I fell in love with her and it was amazing and I wanted to be with her. But for those first few years, I was like, no, I haven't made my millions yet, and I haven't got my Ferrari, and I haven't got all my ducks in line. I haven't had my threesome. I haven't met a million and other
threesome.
I mean, we got there in the end. But it is this. Like, I haven't had all my ducks in line yet, so I don't know if I want to commit yet. I'm still falling in love with this girl.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that becomes a bit of a point of friction or a point of distraction where you kind of go, oh, maybe I need to step away. But most guys aren't going to buy their Ferrari. No. Most guys aren't going to have their threesome. Most guys aren't going to get all these ducks in line because, well, it's just not real.
So I've come across something, and it was, I overheard someone else talking about this before, and so he was a Muslim guy, and he kept dating non-Muslim girls. And then eventually in the relationship, he would be like, oh, you know what? You're not Muslim. You're not going to get along with my family. It's not going to work out. And then he shared that there's one woman he met who was just like, oh, cool. Okay. Well, then I hope you find a Muslim girl. And he was like, oh, fuck. He wasn't expecting that sort of response. Yeah. He ended up marrying that woman. Right. And what occurred was he basically came to understand that his whole Muslim, not Muslim thing was basically about not getting into commitment.
Yeah.
Really?
So whatever our reason is just actually stopping us from just committing and getting into a commitment.
Yeah.
Whatever. And the thing is, the tricky thing is to actually nail down what that particular thing is for you.
Yeah, that's very true. And it is different for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think the thing with commitment is like, I think, men traditionally, and I think this is really true for me, is like men want freedom and women want security. Right, that's been my experience, and those things feel like they're the completely different things. And the freedom with men is it's not always about sexual freedom, to sleep with whoever they want. For some, that's true, but I think for some men, it's freedom with their own time. It's like having the freedom to do what they want with their time, and commitment often feels like I have to give you this time. And that's like a man feels like he's losing his independence.
Yeah.
And women aren't always able to be aware that, I can be with someone committed, but I can also give them freedom to be themselves.
Women don't understand that. But mate, what about the other side of that coin? Do men understand that? It's like, I can be in a committed relationship, but still have my freedom to do what I want. And I think that's one of the things that I love about my relationship. I get to be me.
Yeah.
I just get to, Katie's very much you do you, mate. But we still support each other. And I think there's a really fine line. And I think when we were in the coffee shop a little earlier and we were talking about this, right? There's a really fine line between knowing what your dating life is and what your love life is.
Yeah.
And they're two very, very different things. But I mean, I'm still interested in sort of bringing like the conversation back around to this whole idea of second dates, right?
Yeah.
Just because that's something that's really prevalent to my market and really prevalent to the women that are watching today or that might be following these podcasts is like men struggle with this as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Men are struggling with it. And I think the thing I'm hearing from guys most of all is them being told by women, oh, there's not a spark there, right? And a few guys I've sat down with and I'm like, okay, so how was the date? Let me tell me about the date. What happened? What was the, and I go to kind of back to quite old school stuff of when with the pickup world, and I'm like, okay, like, was there a lot of laughing? Yeah. What did you talk about? Did you were you far away? Did you touch each other? What was the physical contact like? Like, blah, blah, blah. Was there a kiss at the end? I'm like, how was all that stuff? And they're often like, yeah, that was all there. But what I'm really aware of is like, on a date, two people have two different experiences. Like, you might sit on one side and go, I went really, really well. The other person is in the same their body, but their experience they're having is like, yeah, this is cool, but I'm not really, it's not really generating some lusting inside me. And I think one of the things that
lusting is
where else would it be generated? My lusting is generated inside me.
But
lusting.
I think the thing is more and more I look at it now, and chemistry, more I read, is like, chemistry is kind of, I don't call it, it's not love, but it's like, there's a lot of anxiety wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
Right. And and what's really weird is if someone makes you feel really safe and like secure and they're nice, what they don't generate for you is anxiety.
As coming from a guy's perspective.
Well, I think it goes both ways.
Interesting.
Because when I talk to women about, like, they're like, oh, I met this guy. Oh, he was nice. He paid for dinner. We had fun. The conversation was good, but there was a lack of spark. And I'm always thinking to myself, and I ask questions like, oh, did he message you the next day, like straight away afterwards, going, he had a good time? They're like, yeah. And then you go, oh, did he, does he reply reasonably quickly to you? Blah, blah, blah. They're like, yeah. And I'm like, because there's no anxiety for you.
Yeah.
There's no concern like, oh, is he going to message me? There's no mystery.
Yeah, true. And there's also a position on this in terms of social value as well. So if you meet someone and for whatever reason, whether it's your upbringing, your exposure, your friendship circles, the school you went to, if you think that person has a lower level of social value than you, you look at them in a different light. Yeah. And like when we were in the early days, when we were in the dating world, there was always this talk around like meeting hot girls and are they a 10 or are they a 9? And look, I don't condone rating women with numbers. And let's be honest, I can never condone that. My entire business is talking to women around dating. But the thing that was interesting about it is that you'd meet a lot of guys, at least when I was in London, when I was coaching guys here, I'd meet a lot of guys that would go, I saw this girl, man, she was a 10. I was like, what are you? I'm a 6. I was like, well, you've instantly given yourself anxiety there. You've instantly said, you're not good enough. Yeah, exactly. You're lesser. You've put her on this pedestal. And I see that happen on the other side as well. I see girls meet guys and they're like, he's incredible and he's really fun and really engaging and he's good looking and that guy's got abs and a bum to die for. And like, they're like, yeah, this guy's perfect. And then they don't show up as themselves. Yeah. They don't put their best foot forward. Or they try to put their best foot forward. And often, and if you, depending on what you want, right, are you thinking about love and relationships? Often we fall in love with people's flaws as much as their perfections. And so now you're censoring yourself when you're on a date. And that, I think, contributes to this whole idea that you don't get the second date. And like AJ, the thing that I find so interesting, the thing that blows me away, right, is that we're all quick to say, like, technology has influenced this, But if you don't know what you want, and you don't know why you're on that date, and you don't know what where it wants to be in the long run, you're never going to find it. No. You're never going to land on it. And what do you want? Do you want a date or do you want a relationship? Do you want love or do you want a casual fling? And all of them are okay and all of them are right. Yes.
Yeah, there's no shame in any of them. It's like, maybe you're just dating because you want to have sex. Maybe you're dating just to meet people, right? Or maybe deep down, like we had a really good episode with a friend of ours, Kish, and he put it really well how he goes into first dates. He's like, I go into a date and there's no expectation that this is going to be anything. I just go to meet another human being and enjoy my time with them. Yeah. And I think what I really liked about that, and it's the stuff like we've talked about before, is going there to have fun and be playful. Because a lot of people go into a date like it's a business meeting. Like, what's my end results? What's my outcomes? What am I looking to learn? What's going to be the next step afterwards? And you treat it and it becomes heavy and serious. And it's not playful.
I was just going to say, one thing comes to my mind in all of this is, and I'm just thinking back to my own experiences where I was quick to judge on particular dates. And I feel like this is, when you talk about technology, one of the key things that comes up is a lack of scarcity. Like where we're going, it's like, well, there's another option. There's another, I can get back into, plenty of fish kind of vibe. There's plenty more fish in the sea. When there really is, you can really see all the fish. And you're like, well, actually, So then what happens is, I remember going on a particular date where I had a great time and we really gelled. But there was just a couple of things that she said to me, which like red flagged. Yeah. Like, for example, one of them was, so I asked this mutual friend about you before, and I barely knew this woman, right? And I was like, this is right 5 minutes into the date. I'm like clutching the fucking armchair. I was like, oh shit, with it. And then she's like, but she said you weren't a player, so da, 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 da. And I'm like, oh fuck, like I don't know where.
What? Because you were a player?
Well, I didn't know where the fuck I was on the spectrum of playing. I think I'd probably like to think I was, like Zorro or some shit.
Casanova was his best.
yeah. But for me, it was just like, oh, fuck. And then you see something as simple as that. It just kind of gets in the vibe. It doesn't matter how much fun you're having. At the end of it, I actually for me, I was very quick to say if I wasn't interested. And I'd just be like, oh, hey, I had a good time, but I just don't think, but what a quick judgment.
Yeah.
And based on just like, bang, red flag.
Yeah.
And I feel that, I'm not saying this is always the case, but this is the thing. It's like we're living in a world where there's so many options that if you're getting just these little inklings of red flags, you're just like, okay, I'm out. Whereas in the past, you're in the desert or some shit, and there's only like 1 or 2 chances, and you're like, you know what, a couple of red flags, but this crazy is okay. I can do.
I've had that. I've had this crazy before, and I think I can work with it.
Yeah, no, and I like my big, I got nothing. I'm like, you've blown me away with that. But you know what? You've touched on scarcity, and you've touched on abundance, and that's one of the biggest learnings that I've had working with women. Like the biggest learnings is that we were trained to think in a certain way.
Jason Bourne.
We were trained. We were dating trained. In dating boot camp back in the day. When I was Jason Bourne.
5 mile runs every morning.
I am the man I want to be. But we were taught to think differently, right? And for guys, having an abundance mentality is good. I remember being like way back when I first started finding dating and going to talks and workshops. I remember someone saying to me, "A man of options is a man of value." So have abundance and have many women to talk to, because then you don't become needy and you don't become too clingy. And then she texts you or you text her and you're not sitting there by the phone waiting to reply because you're talking to a different girl over here. And I remember like absorbing that learning, and on some levels I kind of kept that in the back of my head. And then when I started working with women, I sort of like I came to the table with, you've got to have abundance. You've got to have options. Like, we live in a world with abundance. You've got dating apps left, right, and center, and you've got all these different guys that you can be talking to. And a lot of them were like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this whole idea of dating multiple guys at once. And I was like, look, if you don't, you're going to get stuck. You're going to waste time. But you know what? The biggest learning that I got, the biggest thing that I took away from all of this is that obviously men and women think differently. And for most of the women, definitely the ones listening, most of the women in my market, most of the women I've met, they can be on the apps, they can meet a whole bunch of guys and they can start dating them. But the moment they start to like one guy, the others just fall to the wayside. So your point about red flags, I think that's a really important thing, because I think if you're a woman dating today, because you don't have the abundance that men tend to have, as a guy, I could date 5 girls at once and then work out, whether they're going to be right for me and then move forward. Whereas a lot of the men fall to the wayside that they're not interested in, and the one that they do like is staying there. And if he wastes her time, it's gone. Time's gone. And they feel that they're starting from scratch. So, finding those red flags early, if it's going to happen that way, find out those red flags early, work out if he's the right kind of guy for you early, and then if he's not, that's okay.
Yeah.
You're not going to be everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah, and I think the thing is one thing we're seeing is like with this abundance is the opposite side, is like where everything becomes a red flag. Instead of them being like just slight niggles, it's what I posted something about how what's it called, our attention thing, right? How we find what we look for, right? And it's about how there's this advert, the moonwalking bear advert that TFL did years ago, and basically people are playing basketball and then a bear walks across, but they don't see it because they're just following the ball. So what we are on now, the ball in dating is red flags. Let me search the red flags. So everyone's on their dates going, okay, what are the red flags? What are the red flags? So we see a bunch of red flags, but what we also completely miss is all this great shit about this person, right? And I know I'm guilty for it. Like sometimes we're like, okay, what's wrong? Let me see what's wrong. And then what happens? You go on a first date. It might be fun. Yeah. But then when you walk home and you're sitting on the bus or the train, you go, oh yeah, but he said this.
He had 2 toes.
Oh, she said that.
He had 2 toes on his left foot. 2 toes. That third nipple. Nah.
Yeah. Oh, and then do you see the way she ate? Oh yeah. Oh, and she mentioned this thing about money. Oh, that means she's got like a scarcity mentality around money. Actually, you know what? They're all red flags. Boom, I'm not messing her back.
You know what's interesting as well? When we first started dating, when we first met and we were all kind of dating in that dating space, we'd meet someone, we'd get to know them, we get their phone number, and then we go on a date with them, right? Today, your first date is no longer your first date. Right? Everyone's like, oh, I got a first date. And I'm like, oh, where did you meet him? Oh, I haven't met him yet. Or I haven't met her yet. I'm just going, we connected on Tinder. We've been chatting. And so you come to the table with all these expectations of it being a first date. But really what you're going through is a first meet.
Yeah.
You're meeting someone for the first time. Whereas back in the day...
First contact.
First contact, yeah. Well, back in the day, we made first contact in a bar, at the bus stop, through a friend's party, through a friend of a friend. And then those nuances when you first meet, you kind of get to know them. There's no pressure of it being on a date. I just met you.
Yeah.
So you kind of get to know them a bit better. You're working out what they're like. Maybe you like them. Maybe you get a phone number. Then you go on a first date.
Yeah.
It's like that initial step has been removed from society. And now we're not going on first dates. We're going on this first meet up. And we have the expectations of a first date.
Yeah.
And then we're going, oh, mate, you got scarcity around money. You've got a third nipple. You're not working out well. You know. And I remember but it's valid, right?
Yeah.
That's the world we got to work with today.
Yeah, there's a quote, actually, I was reading something this morning and I can't remember exactly word for word, but it was along the lines of the way we relate to each other needs to catch up with technology.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
technology's changed and we're still trying to operate. And you were actually saying this in the coffee shop as well. We've got that mindset from the 80s and we're living in 2019 and it's like a whole nother landscape now.
That's right.
And one of the things I think with technology is one of my points is around, because it's all done on, you go on a dating app, right? For most, I reckon now about 80% of dating is done around dating apps, especially in London, right?
Yeah.
And you are seeing a photo of someone and it's their best photo, right? Hopefully, right? Most of the time. And then you see
lying
them
on a beach with a tiger topless.
Yeah, and then you see them in person and they're
they're 40
not,
years older.
yeah, they're not how you thought they were. And then instantly you meet them on the first meet, right? You see them and instantly your whole story and dream is shattered.
Yeah. And you know what? There's a flip side to that. In fact, it gets even deeper. I found is that we start to create their story. So it's not just that you're on a dating app and you saw one picture of this guy or this girl and you're like, yeah, she's hot. Because your dating app is now connected to your Instagram, which is connected to your Facebook. And before you know it, you go down the road of social stalking. You're like, oh, okay, he seems really cute. There he is, pictured with a puppy. Well, he must be a nice guy. And you start, because we put our best foot forward on social media.
Totally.
And then we start to you create a story about this guy or this girl in your head about who she is. And then you turn up to the table and like you're saying, Dave, it's not who she is or it's not who he is.
So I've been seeing, it's funny you mentioned the puppy thing because there's a whole thing now about guys who are holding puppies in their pictures. And then the girl will be like, so what about that dog? And the guy's like, oh, it's not my dog. I'm like, and what's obvious is there's all these guys now who have learned, I'll hold a flower, I'll hold a baby, I'll hold a puppy, and then they get more attention.
Yeah, that's funny. I reckon times have changed, man. Dating felt easier back in the day when we were all doing it.
Yeah.
But it's still fun. And I think we're losing that fun around dating because we're stressing too much and worrying about, am I going to get my second date? Is it going to go anywhere? Is he the right kind of guy for me? Is she the right kind of girl for me? And you do have to answer those questions, right?
Yeah.
You do have to, for me, dating's a screening process.
Yeah.
You got to work it out. But the fun seems to be going with all the stress that's coming with it.
I think it's just because of the amount now, isn't it? I think before, we were coaching, so we were out all the time. We were out 4 or 5 nights a week. We were meeting,
fuck ton of people.
Yeah, weekly, right? Yeah. But the average person might be going meeting, getting a phone number maybe once a month, twice a month. Now you're on apps, and for the top percent of women and the top percent of guys in terms of attractiveness on a photo, they're probably getting 5 to 10 matches every day.
Yeah.
Right. So they're living true abundance, but actually it's really hurting them because they always just think, there's another one. Right. And I think there's something in terms of physical attractiveness that we create is you keep swiping, you're like, she's got a beautiful face. She's got nice legs. She's got a nice ass. Look, she looks really fun. She likes to travel. And then what you create in your head is this kind of cyborg woman that you're looking for who has all the bits of the other women that you like that you put together and go, this is the perfect woman for me. Yeah. But the problem is she doesn't fucking exist.
Yeah.
She's not a real human being.
But I get that as well. Does the perfect man exist? Is the perfect man out there? And I think you touched on something. we're human beings, like, and all these expectations around dating and how you should show up and what you should look like and what you should do has come to the table. And there's just so much fucking noise out there, and nobody is kind of going back to their core, which is like, why am I dating and what do I want and where do I want to be? And like we were saying earlier on, it's okay if you want a casual date, and it's okay if you want to sleep around, and it's also okay if you want something more than that. But you've got to be clear. You got to know what you want, because if you don't know what you want, how the hell are you going to communicate that?
And then what you're going to get is mixed. What I think you put out into the world, if you've got mixed ideas of what you want, you're going to get mixed type of people coming. You're going to get women who, as a guy, you're going to get women who want proper relationships. Then you're going to get someone who just want to sleep around. Then you might even end up with women who just want open relationships, whatever. But because you're not clear in your own energy, that's what you're going to get.
And embarrassment. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool. I just want to throw something else into it as well, which is, I think, very important, because we've all, you talk about being human. And when we're running this checklist of like looking for this perfect, partner, I think something that people need to keep in mind, not even think, this is something I really truly believe, is like, first, really understand what your own shit is, like what your own problems are. What are your weaknesses? What makes you kind of cringe about yourself? What makes you awkward
with yourself?
And then, because you see, for me, it's like when you talk about being human, you're in a long-term relationship, I'm in a long-term relationship. It's like you realize what makes it gel is the fact that you're cool with the shit that comes up. That's what makes it work, is you stop being critical and start to be you start to be self-aware of your own shit and go, you know what? I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
So how can I expect someone else to be fucking perfect? That's just stupid. And I think this is something that when you're going into a date, if you can really hold that, then you're having a different vibe completely, because you're not judging. Like,
and just to build on that as well, when you talk about you're in a long-term relationship, I'm in a long-term relationship, there's a key, and I touched on it earlier on, there's a key difference between like your dating life and your love life, right? So your dating life is a screening process. Is she the right kind of girl for me, for what I want? Is he the right kind of man for me? It's meant to be fun and energetic. You're supposed to have a laugh. It might be short-lived. You're meant to drive it with your brain. Like, is this right? Is this working? But your love life's different. That's driven by your heart, right? Yeah. There's ups and there's downs. You're going to have arguments. There's good and there's bad. The difference is you hold each other's space. Yeah. You're going to grow together. And there's like a barrier between the two of them. And you kind of got your dating life, and you meet someone and you get to know them a bit better. You maybe go 3 or 4 or 5 dates. You're starting to connect. And then the question is like, are they right for me? Am I going to transition them into my love life? Then you're in a relationship, which is a different thing to be dating.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it blows me away, because we kind of focus on dating as this commodity that is just disposable now. And no one, and it's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to get married. Not everyone wants kids. But if you do, whether it's a short-term goal or a long-term goal, if you do want kids, if you do want to get married, if you do want that bigger picture or a life partner, then start working it out now, because time is something you don't get back. It's a commodity that when it's gone, it's gone.
And actually, because it's something that you don't, it's very hard to conceptualize or even advise people on, because such of the length of time of a relationship, like, we don't really know. Like, I haven't been in a 40-year marriage. Like, I ain't got no fucking idea, like, what it is to be in that. I can give all the story or I think it could, no, I don't know shit.
But live in the moment.
But that's the thing. And it's like, so like you just said there, it's like the understanding of like what it is to be alive for that long, what it is to have a life partner, what it is to be lonely, to without a life. And I really see, in generations gone by, where they actually, because they had a life partner, because they really build something stable, as opposed to just being someone who's out there on their own and no one's looking after them, or no one to depend upon, no one you can bounce ideas off of, and I think it's, at least if anything, in terms of this particular message here, it's like, just have an awareness. Like, it's not all, when we're kids, we're like, fuck it, but as you get older, you start to realize, like,
you mature, don't you? And like, you get older, and then at some point your mortality hits you, and then I've heard other dating coaches say this before, I've heard other people say this before, regret, right, is an emotion that paralyzes you, and you don't know it's hit you until it hits you, and then it's too late. And the only way you know it's hit you is by looking back at the past. and then there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
So like having that awareness, what you're saying, AJ, having that awareness of what do you want and where do you want to go, whether that's later or whether that's now, it's fundamental for this whole dating noise that's out there. Otherwise, man, you're spinning your wheels, bro. You just that's long.
It's a bit like business and chasing money, basically, and not knowing why you want the money. It's the kind of same sort of vibe, not knowing why you're going on all these dates, and
but it's also control, right? Like, and I don't mean it in a weird control way, like, but kind of
stability.
taking,
You mean? Like,
responsibility. I think that's it. Like taking responsibility for your own dating life, and having control over who you meet and why you meet them and why, and this whole kind of thing we're talking about, the second date thing. I think it's all right if you don't get a second date, because you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. At the same time, not every girl's going to be the right kind of girl for you. But it's not beating yourself up about it. It's not like looking introspective and go, "What's wrong with me? Oh fuck, I'm too ugly. Or I'm too fat."
It's not all about you.
It's not all about you. That's
be
exactly
ugly,
right.
Be too fat.
There's a woman out there that loves an ugly fat guy, and there is, because someone loves me, man.
There's probably an app for that now. The ugly fat app, like
it's called UgFat.
I'd say this though, like with the second date stuff, is like, just to give, I'd say to like as a takeaway for people, it's like if you can show up to your date in a playful manner, right, as yourself, and not being like, oh, I need to be a certain way, I need to be this way, I need to say these things, I need to find out these things about someone, and just going, I'm going to be me, and that's cool. I'm just going to be me. I'm going to say the stupid shit that I say, because that way people get an experience of you. And at the end of it, if they don't like that, then cool, that's perfect. That saved you a lot of time.
There's in that which episode was it we did with Kish? The
21?
Because he said something like that. That's how he approaches all of his dates. He doesn't go, oh, this is the first date. He's like, oh, I'm going to go meet another human being.
I like that.
And that's it. He doesn't have any expectations.
Because what was it? Something we pushed through the business is like, don't date them because you like them. Date them to find out if you like them.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And I like that, AJ. I like what you're saying about Kish. Like, I'm just going to show up. I'm just going to find out if this is going to work. No expectations. Which goes back to exactly what David was saying about, we're creating their story. We're on Facebook. We're seeing what they're about. Maybe just go in blind. Don't have any expectations.
Yeah. Like you don't know them and just be like, hey.
Like old school. Like we just met in a bar. I don't really know you, but let's meet again.
I've actually had those dates where you turn up and you've had all the chat. On Tinder.
He's got nothing to talk about.
He's like, what?
I've seen all your Facebook photos. Nothing to talk about.
So you travelled? Oh, you know that.
Yeah. Oh, I saw you went to this place and then you went to that restaurant and did this. It's like, yeah.
But like not even, like that's just fucking ridiculous. Like, why don't we just go back to old school? I'm waiting for the day when the apps just fail.
Yeah.
Right? It fails everyone.
I think,
we just go right back.
Now I'd say in London there's a real backlash to them. Like I've met a lot of women. A lot of the women I've met in the last year and a half have been like, I don't use the apps. I don't use them. Like, and there's some great women I've met, like some really interesting, I really resonate with. And they're like, I don't use the apps because it's not in line with my values of how I treat people. And I find it really interesting because it's like, I'm like, oh, well, nor do I. So these women are like thinking like me.
And these are the women you're dating. Or
and they're like,
mate, shameless plug, the Social Collective, date differently, send them my way. Right, give them, like, I want to grow, man. I want the world to know that this message about dating differently.
And like not being, because apps make everyone a commodity. It's making dating a commodity and humans a commodity in their emotions. And going, actually, let me meet people in real life and be real and be myself and not hide. Because dating apps allow you to hide. That's the one thing I say. They allow you to hide behind the facade of your profile and persona.
There's a lot we could say. I mean, about dating apps in general, the psychology behind it, the addictiveness to just apps in general. Like you said, the commodity, the vibe. It's like they are useful. They are a route to market, and it's like. But I think for us, we're moving into a world where a lot of the youngsters, that's all they're seeing now. Yeah, this is the only way to connect.
They don't know any different.
Yeah,
those pesky kids these days.
So, is there any? What would you say? Each of us, like one piece of advice you give people to, like, show up on their dates with the mindset of being able to like move that into a second date. For me, the number one takeaway from this one would be to turn up with the exploration idea. You're actually meeting someone, you're not no expectations, and to enjoy the date in that way.
For me, don't treat it like a first date. You're meeting them for the first time. If you met them on the apps, think of the apps like a game. Like you got to the second level of Donkey Kong or something, and you're meeting them for the first time. So treat it like you're meeting them first time. Zero expectations. Go in to work out, is she the right kind of girl for me? And I think and to build on that, don't rely on the apps. So develop a social life that's going to serve your dating life, and then develop a dating life that's going to serve your love life.
Yeah. I'd say for me, it's like going in there, not searching for the red flags and looking for all the things that are wrong, and like letting go of that and just going in with like a blank mindset and going, okay, let's see who this person is, as like a curiosity.
Yeah, I love that. That's nice.
Cool, man.
Wicked.
That was really cool. Really good.
So Russ, if people want to kind of connect with you and find out what you're up to,
Mate, please connect with me. Please come and find out what we're up to. Especially if you're a girl in London dating, because we've got some incredible stuff happening. It's www.thesocialcollective.com.au. Yes, it's Australian. The website's a bit of shit. I built it myself. But if you want to connect with us on Instagram, it's all happening there. It's _social collective. And we've got, we've launched our podcast. We're like 5 episodes in to the Date Differently podcast.
highly recommend this podcast. I've listened to quite a few episodes myself.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. And we're just having fun. We're talking about real shit, man. And we want as many people to hear our message. So come along, find us, follow us, tell your friends, tell your mum. Tell everyone.
Awesome.
Get amongst it.
And we'll put the links and stuff into the description, so it'll be easy to find.
Thank you.
And also, follow us at authenticdatingseries.com and on Instagram at authenticdatingseries. Thanks, guys, and catch you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Ciao, ciao.
See you later.